Hey, somebody needs to actually read the Constitution. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. I thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. The Professional Noticer is sponsored this week by our friends at Tucker ATV. You know, the sheer variety of power sport products at Tucker ATV will blow your mind. They have the Hustler turf equipment, the entire line of Echo power tools, and of course, Tucker ATV carries every make and model of Polaris ATVs. The big Polaris side-by-sides, the even bigger Ranger Cruise. It's unbelievable. You have to see the showroom. Taxidermy, antique displays, indoor porch with a porch swing, comfortable chairs, television, coffee. Stop in and meet Shannon and Lisa Tucker. They treat customers like family, which is why folks from 14 states have done business with Tucker ATV. A great culture going there. Highway 43 North in Jackson, Alabama. Tucker ATV, the small town business with the national reputation. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And as you know, we love it when we can come to the table with both. And today we have both. We have observations and answers. We're going to be discussing a specific answer, and that is about culture. I've been talking about this on a bunch of different platforms lately and wanted to make sure that we covered the podcast platform just in case you're not available on any of the other platforms. We want to make sure that you get to hear this discussion on culture. Is it really the answer? So here we go. Start off with Fairway Independent Mortgage. This is a company that surged from $5.4 billion to $72.5 billion in 7 years of organic growth, all without acquiring any other company. Employees' numbers during that time grew from 700 to more than 11,000. If you ask the founder and CEO, Steve Jacobson, how it happened, he'll probably talk to you about creating measurable results and culture. Now, recently, the Boeing company reported a massive loss of $2 billion a month for the past quarter. Speaking about striking workers, general employee unrest, and the possibility of somehow returning the iconic brand Boeing was for decades back to what it was, President and CEO Kelly Ortberg stated, "First, we need a fundamental culture change in the company." So, while one CEO credits culture for a financial incline, another CEO blames culture for a financial decline? Yes, and they're both right. You know, culture is the most valuable, least understood weapon in an organization's arsenal because culture is not often completely understood by people with the power to change it. Companies and teams are subject to navigating business tides that are sometimes incoming, sometimes outgoing, but are always seemingly uncontrollable. So in dissecting the very concept of culture, it's interesting to note that everyone is already a part of one. Every corporation and small business has a specific culture. Every neighborhood, every state, every team, church, and family already has a culture. Good ones, great ones, and horrible ones. Most miss the simple fact that a person will either be a part of intentionally creating a culture or they will acquiesce to the culture someone else has chosen for them. Great cultures are a conscious choice. Bad cultures often happen by default. Cultures like canoeing a river. One can paddle upstream to a specific location, or they can let the river decide their destination. But know this, the river always chooses downstream. And downstream is where the garbage piles up. Is there evidence that corporate leaders don't understand how to harness the power of culture? Yes. The first proof being the corporate culture or value statement page on most company websites. Read a few. I think you'll get a kick out of them. For the most part, these declarations proclaim a culture they would like to have, or one that they believe consumers expect them to have. But what's rarely there is anything written that's based on reality. In fact, many corporate pronouncements about culture are written by marketing teams who never interviewed anyone or even observed the employees at work. In essence, their description of that particular corporation's culture is marketing, but it doesn't give anyone an accurate representation of a company's actual culture. Remember Enron? The core values posted on Enron's website listed integrity, communication, respect, and excellence. Yet 22,000 jobs went up in smoke because of a cancerous culture that reached to the very top of the organization. A great corporate culture is evidenced by rocketing revenues, increased hiring, and fiercely loyal employees. The best examples of culture show up in recruiting new talent, retaining the best talent, and peace between management and the workforce. A culture that is awesome is confirmed by strong team relationships and solid individual relationships between employees, customers, and potential customers. A bad culture, or at least one that is adrift, produces almost exactly the opposite. In meetings, a corporation can determine the culture they pursue. But know this, they are never the final arbiter of what their culture actually is. That is for the outside world to decide. We, the outside world, look at a company's actual culture to determine if we want to do business with them again, or at all. We discern a family's culture to know whether or not our children will play with their children. We examine the culture of a city or a neighborhood to decide if it's a place we want to live. Culture is ultimately a manifestation of behavior. Our behavior is a product of our values. Our values are formed by what we truly believe about ourselves, about teammates, about employers, about our profession, about everything. So what nudges us one way or another about what we believe? The answer? How we think. At its foundational level, our culture is determined by how we think, because how we think shapes our work ethic, our relationships, our trustworthiness. How we think forms our ability to lead, our ability to follow, and our ability to navigate tough situations with grace. How we think is on display for everybody to see when we're quick to respond, when we help without being asked, or quietly solve someone else's problem. Of course, in the same way, how we think is on display for all to see when we are habitually late, when we're sullen, or when we're ungrateful. Every culture, whether family, corporate, team, or community, is determined by how its members think. Every organization rises or falls according to the thinking of the most ordinary members of its team. Have you ever wondered how many independent decisions are made hourly by individuals operating in the corporate trenches? Is it possible for a company's leadership to even be aware of a fraction of all the decisions being made? And these decisions, some professional, some personal, they determine sales, production, teamwork and relationships with coworkers, interactions with customers or clients, and the overall corporate reputation that's lodged in the heads of potential clients and customers. Those everyday decisions create situations and produce results that are either perfect, acceptable, unacceptable, or disastrous. Those results, of course, are based upon the quality of thinking demonstrated by the individuals operating as the structure of an organization. Remember, the thinking of a team's individuals determines the team's culture. So why don't more CEOs pay proper attention to culture? Well, other than acknowledging culture as a thing, most corporate leaders don't understand how to create or change their culture because most have never had to do either. Usually, they have simply joined an existing culture or lived with the one that developed under their watch. Therefore, these CEOs seem only to know whether the culture they have is good or not so good. Many accept what the marketing department wrote about their culture as a reality, but almost none have a specific program in place. In America today, leadership has become its own industry. There are books about leadership, speakers who specialize in leadership, courses, there are seminars and workshops. The mantra has become, everything rises and falls on leadership. Really? Everything? Everything rises and falls on the behavior of 12 to 15% of a company's workforce? Do you suppose the executives at Boeing have heard that? I mean, if they can afford to lose $6 billion in 3 months and still stay in business, wouldn't you think Boeing management has gone through the most intensive and expensive leadership courses available? How's that working out? While it's certainly true that some things rise and fall on leadership, the term everything is reserved for culture because everything rises and falls on culture. Why everything? For the simple reason that everything includes everybody. If you are the CEO, would you have 15% of your team knowing what to tell the 85% to do, while the 85% make independent decisions hourly over which the 15% has no knowledge or control? Or would you rather have 100% of your team making quality decisions and moving in a specific direction together? At present, the new CEO of Boeing might be the single voice in a wilderness of Boeing's own creation. But his assertion that first we need a fundamental culture change in the company, that informs us at least that he gets it. Kelly Ortberg knows he doesn't want a situation where he's working with management and team members who are at odds. That never works. And sometimes it doesn't work spectacularly, like now at Boeing. Similarly, a company's sales staff averages between 15 and 20% of its employees. Rare is the corporation that does not require extensive and specific sales training, a common practice that necessitates a pretty hefty financial investment. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not against leadership training or sales training. Both are necessary. But an organization will experience greater and more dramatic results by coaching every team member to achieve their part in a culture you choose. This is why creatingmeasurableresults.com is a coaching company. Most people apply the words training and coaching interchangeably. There is, however, a major difference in the meaning of the two. Training has to do with hard skills and repetition. Sales training includes how to approach, what to say, when to say it. Sales personnel are trained in cold calling and closing techniques. Sales training is usually taught with a script. Leadership training is often delivered as if by a flowchart. If you do A, they will do B. If you do C, or they do C, then your response is D. So while training is usually limited to specific skills, coaching has to do with raising the level, the quality of an entire organization's thinking. Through the years, I've worked with many CEOs. Curiously, for the sake of my own company, I've learned to politely turn down opportunities to align creating measurable results with those who do not understand the powerful advantage an increase in thinking provides. Helping a CEO comprehend The corporate advantage of raising all employees' personal and professional thinking at an ever-increasing level is CMR's first step in helping a corporation compete at a level their competition doesn't even know a game is being played. Even the CEOs of companies who are the industry leaders seem to understand that their team members are still not performing to their potential. Many come to us after struggling for years to find training that can create a dramatic increase in results. I often ask these two questions. According to your industry standards, do your employees know what to do? Do they know how to do it? After the CEO answers yes and yes, and I wonder aloud, why then aren't they reaching their potential? I mean, they know what to do and know how to do it. Then I ask this question. Knowing that you have only your own industry standards as a basis for comparison, and being aware that your employees know what to do and how to do it, then what are the chances that training created specifically by and for your industry will yield results beyond a high average for your industry? Well, what are they going to be trained to do? How to know more of what to do? Whether you lead a corporation of thousands or a much smaller team, know this. Your organization is perfectly designed right now to produce exactly what it's producing. If you want to dramatically produce more, if you want to actually grow while your industry is navigating a downturn in the economy, if you want to compete in a way your competition doesn't know a game is being played, you'll have to do something differently. The fortunes of a specific corporation do not have to mirror the ups and downs of an industry. But if a team has players that are trained and nurtured with the same thought process that has become the industry standard, that's exactly what's going to happen. Creating an incredible culture, one that pays financial dividends, is a process. It can't be accomplished in a single week or month. It will not be done with 2 retreats in a year. Creating a culture that produces the very best from your team will require consistently increasing greater level of thinking. It will require you to imagine a destination most in your industry consider unimaginable. But just remember that the unimaginable can become a certainty when you know how it's done and you do it. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Flounder sandwiches for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by the Generic Cartoon Network. Friend, are you tired of what now passes for cartoons on Saturday mornings? Would you like some mind-numbing enjoyment with the kids, but don't want to dip into your savings for Disney Plus? Now, on regular television, tune in to Saturday morning's newest tradition, the Generic Cartoon Network. We are cartoons on the cheap because we use AI instead of illustrators. We use AI instead of voice actors, and AI writes all our scripts. Best of all, our cartoons are rip-offs of the characters you know best, so we pay zero in copyright fees. You'll laugh at the adventures of Mickey Mouse and his friend Donald Dog. Follow along as Donald's nephews, Whoopie, Doopie, and Loopy, create their own special brand of mischief. You'll delight at the antics of Bugs Badger and his pal Daffy Dolphin as they outwit their nemesis, Elmer Crud. Later in the morning, you'll thrill to the adventures of Scooby Don't, Huckleberry Hog, Foghorn Armhorn, and many more. Join us this Saturday and tell your friends about the generic Cartoon Network. It's just like the real thing, only a little bit worse.